how's it going, everybody, and welcome back to the Pennsylvania and Berwind. Today we're going to be continuing work here in the Highland area, and today we're going to be working on the TOFC yard, which is one of the last industries to put up here. We still have one more that we need to do, which we will do in the next episode, but today is going to be the TOFC yard, and I think on the original P&B, if you're familiar with that, Bill M's version, I want to say he actually had like an intermodal facility here. That seemed a little bit out of place, in my opinion. So I wanted to scale things down a little bit and do more of a trailer on flat car, small industry setup. And once again, I've been looking at Scranton, Pennsylvania on Google Earth while I look for inspiration for this area. And lo and behold, I found a section of track in the tangle of tracks that are in Scranton that looks very much almost abandoned, but not quite. Parts of it are abandoned, but parts of it also still have some, I saw freight cars, so they must have some usage to some degree, so it's not entirely abandoned. So I was looking at this particular area for inspiration, and I thought that that would be perfect for this particular build today. So as I mentioned in the last video, I went ahead and I did all of the road layouts. I did that during a Patreon live stream at the beginning of the month, so if that's something that you're interested in, head over to patreon.com/approachmedium and sign up for the live stream tier. I do a live stream every month at the beginning of the month that is just for patrons. So anyway, I took some time to lay out all the roads and brainstorm some ideas for what I wanted to do, and I basically laid out this entire area, which you will see throughout this video. I'm not going to highlight it. Maybe at the end of the cinematics, I'll show you some more of the area and how I developed it. But for now, just know that I laid out the roads, I got an idea of what sort of buildings I wanted to place where, and the general feel that I was going for this area. And I'm pumped. I'm really excited because now I have a vision for this area, and now I'm inspired. And when I get inspired for a build, I'm on fire, man. Like, I'll just rip through that. And in fact, I actually started this video almost right after I finished the last video, episode 47. So that's how pumped I am to be working on this. And I would have done some more. This would have been a longer video if I didn't run out of time to shoot it. That was the only constraint that I ran into here, was just my time. So anyway, after all of that blurbing here for 3 minutes leading into this video, I want to talk a little bit about what I was sort of inspired by here. And the whole idea is that we're going to have this 2-track trailer on flat car or intermodal or transload facility track. I'm kind of imagining it as being a bit of an auxiliary track for almost, you know, any sort of LCL traffic or trailer on flat cars or anything like that. Like, you could maybe put a tank car here to be pumped into a tank truck or something like that, whatever. But for the purposes of this video, I do throw down some flat cars with trailers on them, so I'll be throwing those down. But anyway, the idea is that this 2-track section maybe was once a part of another branch that continued throughout the rest of Highland and went to some other industries, but now it's been basically cut off and abandoned from the rest of the Highland area, and we're just sort of on the outskirts. I forgot to mention that the roads that I laid out here and expanded, in this whole area, it's really only meant to be the edge of a bigger city. So I'm not as populous as it's going to probably develop and become. It's not going to be a full-blown city like Allegheny or Juniata or anything like that. We're kind of just imagining that we're on the edge of town. So this track is meant to represent track that maybe continued, and maybe one day we'll, continue the track on another expansion of the P&B when this thing is finally done. But anyway, I wanted to have a bunch of out-of-service tracks here, going in a couple different directions, because I always love the look of that. I love going to like a town that you've never been to before, and you're driving through like an industrial area and you see some abandoned tracks that are like right next to the road, and it just, for me, it lets my imagination go wild. Like, I imagine, like, what kind of rail traffic used to be there? How many trains did it see? Like, was this a busy industry? Or, like, things like that. It really gets my mind going. So I wanted to make sure that I included something like that here. So this little spur that we're looking at coming out of the 2-track yard, I guess, or industry, is totally abandoned. It is out of service. I threw some out-of-service crossbucks there. Those are from TBS. And just generally, I'm trying to make the track and area look as overgrown and mostly abandoned as possible. And I know a lot of you guys out there probably rolling your eyes like, oh, why are you modeling, abandoned track? There's nothing interesting about that. I mean, let your imagination run wild. That's just what I have to say about that. So anyway, that's sort of the look that we're going for here. I did cut off the end of the track there. You can see the 2 loading ramps at the top end of the screen just a moment ago. I'll float back there in a moment. But that would be where the track would continue on, and I actually don't get to modeling that in this particular episode. I'll probably do that maybe during another Patreon live stream or off camera. I'm probably going to do a lot of the developing in this area off camera because it's going to be a lot of like background buildings and filler material. So I don't really know how interesting that would be to you guys. But let me know down in a comment with a comment below, if that's something that you'd be interested in, because I will put that into a video. So anyway, continuing on with this particular build, working in lots of grass and shrubs and that sort of thing to get the overall overgrown, mostly abandoned sort of feel to this area before I start bringing in some of these trailers. And one of the hallmarks of a lot of these builds that I see, a lot of these locations that I see in real life are these sort of like trailer walls where they'll take these old trailers that maybe they're not using anymore and they just sort of like park them right next to their fence or the property line or something like that, and they just sit there. So I don't know if maybe they're just being stored or if they're abandoned or what, but I see this all over the place all the time, and it's something that I think is a really great characteristic to work into a scene like this, and it helps break up a lot of the monotony of, oh, there's too much grass or there's too much gray from all of the pavement and asphalt and gravel and that sort of thing in the area. So for me, it's a bit of a visual, it's a little bit more visual noise, in my opinion. But it also tells the story, I guess, of what this area is. What does it do, So we've got, trailers here. We've got our flat cars. So at this point is when I'm just trying to see what this is going to look like in here. And overall, in terms of like operations and stuff like that, I haven't really decided if both tracks would definitely be used for switching and operations, or if it would just be the one track that I put the flat cars on. I think that would be kind of dependent on where they're going, because on the original P&B, and according to the P&B paperwork, they're supposed to go to a trucking facility on the Vonnie branch, and I did not model that, so these would have to be bound probably for off P&B interchange traffic. I don't know. I haven't really thought it through too much, but I'm sure you guys will have some opinions on that and some ideas. So I'm always all ears for that sort of thing. So of course, I've got lots of roads laid out here. I did a lot of off-camera work on the roads, laying out where they were going to be. And you'll see in between a couple cuts here, like parking lots will show up that weren't there in the previous cut, or intersections will be more completed, or buildings will show up. I've been trying to cut out some of the quote-unquote like more boring, things that I think would be a little bit less interesting for you guys. So I'll leave that stuff out and try to include the more interesting detailing and overall big picture type stuff where I kind of get in there and really shape up what the scene is going to develop like and what it's going to look like. And that 3-track crossing that you just saw in the bottom left corner there, I just love that right there. Oh man. In terms of like quote unquote like abandoned infrastructure, like to me that just makes my mind go bananas. I love that. I'll have to get some scenes or some shots from that for the cinematics at the end there. I haven't done the cinematics yet. All right, so at this point, I decided to shift my focus to the main street, the main road here, and I decided to work my way lengthwise down it. So I didn't really follow any rhyme or reason. I sort of just built what I was feeling like building at the time. So I jump around a little bit and try to keep things a little bit linear and working my way down the road. But at this point, I'm bringing in some of these crossings here. I like these old style crossings. The gantry crossing looks, pretty old looking. I like that. And I kind of figured that these would probably have an exempt sign on them because they're not going to have very frequent rail traffic. So it would be kind of silly for buses and tank trucks and, whatever else to actually have to stop at this crossing anytime they were passing through here. So I figured an exempt sign would be pretty appropriate due to the infrequent rail traffic. And it's just a nice detail to add. So right there, right here, you can see I continued the abandoned spur down the side of the road here, and I'm going to work in some details at this point, bring in some overgrown grasses and some shrubs and some old cross gates and that sort of thing, rusty fences, little details that sort of show the age of the scene and how, you know, maybe this section of track, maybe it's not abandoned, maybe it's just quote-unquote out of service, you know, but there's no industries that need to be served, so it's not being used. You can see the track right there. I wanted it to look like it was cut off. Maybe they redid the intersection recently and they just cut the track, blowtorched it, and there's no bump or grade crossing there. So I thought that was a neat detail to include in there. It breaks it up a little bit because I do add some crossings at some of the other crossings there. But cutting it off and adding a little variety never hurt, All right, at this point, I want to talk a little bit about the future of the P&B and what's in store for the next couple of episodes, and I guess what's in store for the rest of the P&B. So overall, we're right at the beginning of 2022. It's January. I think I said this at the beginning of 2021, but I'm hoping to have the P&B done this year. That's my plan. I want to have it done by this year. I want to have it in beta, ideally, by midsummer. That's my goal. I'm putting my mind to that, and I think it's doable. I think that's what I'm going to do. So, that being said, this is where things get a little bit tricky. This is episode number 48. Episode number 49 is going to be the other part of Highland here, and that is Reitz Salvage. So we'll be doing that next, as well as developing the area surrounding that a little bit. But like I said, as I mentioned, I'm going to do some of that off camera or during Patreon streams because it's a lot of just background filler type stuff. Anyhow, episode 50 will be after that. What am I going to do for episode 50? I have absolutely no idea. But I guess that's sort of a landmark episode, right? Episode 50. 50 episodes of the P&B, that's quite a lot. It doesn't seem like it because I started doing this in, 2016 or 2017, so 50 episodes in that many years. Whatever. Let's not think about that. Anyway, so for episode 50, I'm thinking about doing a bit of an overview of all of the builds that we've done so far, and I'll make it like a normal build video. I need to decide what I want to build in that video, but that leads me into the next thing here, is that we're running out of major areas to build on the P&B. There's a few more industries that need to be shaped up, but there's a lot of filler in between a lot of these industries. So you guys let me know down in the comments below. Do you want videos on that filler material? Do you want me to do it off camera? Do you want me to do live streams? Or do you want a combo of that? Like, what is going to be interesting to you guys? Because at this point, beyond episode 50 and beyond these couple of industries, it's more a matter of just fleshing out some of these areas that I've already began to rough in. So all of that is going to be interesting to me because I'm the one building it, but I don't know how interesting that's going to be for you guys to watch me either do roads or do background buildings or do builds that don't directly involve the train tracks, essentially, is what I'm trying to say. So I have to think about what I'm going to do in the next few episodes beyond that, because maybe it'll be a lot of detail work. Maybe I'll do videos where I just cover detailing or super detailing some of these scenes, and I'll do the filler stuff off camera or during live streams. I'm not really sure, but I'm reaching a point with this build where there's still a lot of work to be done, but it's a lot of uninteresting work. So let me know what you guys think about that, what your feelings are. But again, my goal is to try to get this route done this year and get it out to you guys so I can just sleep easy finally. Again, I've mentioned it before, I'm gonna finish the route in Tain, and then I'll update it to Trainz 2019 and do a release for Trainz 2019. And then after that, I'm probably going to fully move into Trainz 2019 or Trainz 2022. Haven't decided what I'm doing yet, but I'll probably be moving on and moving away from Tain after this build is complete. I probably would have went into 19 sooner by now if it wasn't for this build, but I know that there's a lot of you guys that are still using Trainz A New Era and are waiting for this route to come out, and I don't want to alienate you guys out of that. So I do plan on finishing this and then moving on. And I guess with that said, I do have two other builds that I'm considering jumping into following this. So I haven't really spoke about what my plans are for other builds or anything else. I've kind of been taking a little bit of a back seat and taking a break from some of this. But for the most part, I've got the main central build. I actually really want to get back into that. It is, the route is pretty much corrupted, so I'd almost have to start over. There's some stuff that I can salvage out of it, but for the most part, I'm probably going to have to start over. So that series will probably come back, and then I have another build and another series that I started a while ago, like maybe back in July or August, and I started filming it, and then in Trainz 2019, and then I just stopped. So I might revisit that, and that's going to be a short build also, so that might be something that's interesting. But anyway, that's some things to look forward to on the channel coming soon. They'll be coming soon. Hashtag TM. So at this point, let me talk about the map again, what I'm doing here. I'm trying to fill in some of these scenes that are in between our road and the train tracks there, and there's a few warehouses that I was able to squeeze in there, but overall, most of the warehouses and the buildings that we have are a little bit too big of a footprint to fit in there. So I figured, hey, you know, maybe some of this space had some warehouses back in the day that were rail served, and they've since burned down or been demolished. So, you know, why not make some of this into like municipal parking? So maybe this is a spot where the town keeps all of their school buses and snow plows and utility trucks and that sort of thing. So that's the idea with that particular spot that I was just working on there. Those are my plows and my trucks and my school buses. You can get them over on my website, approachmedium.com. Check it out. They're free. So yeah, overall, I'm working on trying to figure out what to put in between the tracks and the roadway here, and it kind of boils down to a mix of some of these municipal parking lots and spaces and a couple of smaller warehouses and that sort of thing. I always have a hard time figuring out what to do with these kind of strange, awkward spaces, because I want to fill them with scenery, but then it feels like there's too much greenery for like a town or a city. And then, but you know, I can't fill in too many buildings or whatever. It starts kind of feeling gray and muddy. So I always struggle with this sort of thing. But again, having Google Earth open and just looking at, you know, real world examples, that helps a ton. And that helps me quite a bit with this particular build in this particular area. So the other thing that I forgot to mention at the beginning, dang, is if you look at the track that goes to the brewery and the current track that we put down in this episode for the TOFC yard, if you stretch your imagination just a little bit, it almost looks like that could be a former diamond crossing with the P&B. So maybe at some point, you know, add that to the P&B lore, that maybe at some point a long time ago during the Steam era or something like that, that actually was a diamond interchange, and those two tracks that are going to those industries are just the remnants of that. So take a look at that, go back to the beginning of the episode, maybe I'll flash it up in the, I'll put it up in the cinematics. Like I said, I haven't shot the cinematics yet, so they'll be in the cinematics to show you, but if you stretch your imagination just a little bit, it does look like the right-of-way could have been an old diamond intersection, or an interchange rather. So I like that idea. All right, so the last segment of this video before I ran out of time was to do a little detailing in the this industry that's right next to our TOFC yard here. And I saw the building said like Tudor welding and materials or something like that. So yeah, Tudor welding and metal fabrication. So I thought, you know what, let's put down some pipes and some iron beams and some scrap and, you know, just sort of overall fill it with just a menagerie of junk. But also keeping it kind of, it's not a scrapyard, so I wanted to keep it sort of tame, I guess, so to speak, and not really overdo it with too much like scrap materials or anything like that. So I ended up putting down more like finished product, iron beams and pipes and palletized things and that sort of thing. So, but I wanted to keep it kind of loose. I didn't add in any parking markings, parking lines or anything like that. I just wanted it to feel like it was just a big, you know, industrial yard with forklifts and you know, just all sorts of stuff going on at any given time without too much formality to it. So I'm just using a mix of JR pipes and some stuff that I think was just from the download station, and other scrap metal that I've used a million times all over the place, and you know, it just works. So, I mean, I can't complain that, I wish we had more variety, but I can't complain with the stuff that we do have. Sometimes you just have to think of different uses for the materials that you do have and the assets that you do have. And you can see here, I'm trying to kit bash a stack. So I take a couple of these JR 2x4s and put them on top of these I-beams and then throw another stack on top. You know, I mean, it's little things like that. You have to think outside the box a bit to just add a bit of variety and make things, I guess, I don't know if you're making them fresh again or just, you know, reusing the same assets multiple times. And it goes back to what I've been doing with my buildings and doing a lot of kit bashing and taking all these different buildings or buildings that I've used a million times and just clipping them into each other or making different height adjustments and that sort of thing to just make an entirely new building. And that seems to work pretty well, especially on a route that's this big. You know, you're going to be reusing assets all over the place. There's no way around it. It's just going to happen. So anyway, that is probably just going to do it for this episode. We're going to come into the cinematics in a moment. But I want to mention, if you've made it this far, this video is dropping on Friday. I don't even know what the date is. Friday. It's going to drop on Friday before the Big E train show out in Springfield, Massachusetts. So if you're going to be in Springfield, Massachusetts at the Amherst Railway model train show, I can't remember what they call this thing, I will be there. I'll be wearing my Approach Medium hoodie, so you can find me. If you happen to be there, come find me, say hi, and we'll talk, you know, shop for a little bit, whatever, grab beer or anything like that. So hope to see you guys there. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode, and I'll see you in the next one.